All right, we're going to do a real quick lecture about the autonomic nervous system. This is a lot more complex, but I just want you to know the basics about it. So you have a little bit of familiarity with it. First of all, let's talk, remember the somatic nervous system sends stimuli from vision, hearing, equilibrium, smell, taste, touch, and proprioception to the central nervous system, and then carries voluntary nerve impulses to the skeletal muscles. Proprioception, that's a word you may not be familiar with. That is your sense of where your limbs are, where your body is in space. So you can tell me where your feet are, where your hands are, even when you can't see them, because of that sense of proprioception. You can tell which muscles are contracted, which muscles are relaxed, based on sensors within those muscles that tell your brain what those muscles are doing. That is your sense of proprioception. The autonomic nervous system is your visceral nervous system. This controls your internal organs. This is reflexive. It is involuntary. It happens without your awareness. The sensory information is going to sense changes in everything from the blood vessels to the organs, the blood pressure, the rate your heart rate is moving, the amount of salt in your body, all of those things. That's all part of this visceral sensory information. And then the autonomic motor division is going to send commands from the central nervous system to your internal organs, your smooth muscle, the glands, all of those things to keep the inside of your body working. The lower motor neurons of the autonomic nervous system have a ganglion outside of the spinal cord. So we've got a preganglionic axon. This goes out through the anterior ramus to an autonomic ganglion. And then there's a synapse there at that ganglion, and then a cell body there in the ganglion, and then a postsynaptic neuron that actually sends the signal to the organ. The autonomic ganglion is where these pre- and postganglionic neurons synapse, and this is going to be the connection between the spinal cord and the internal organs. So this two neuron system enables more complex signaling. So even though this shows one postganglionic axon, this one preganglionic axon could actually synapse with a number of postganglionic axons. And so it's kind of like the airport hubs, where flights from a number of different places can come into one hub, and then flights, can go out to a number of different places. So we know, which is why we sometimes end up going, for example, north in order to fly south, or if in LA we end up going like to San Francisco before we go, say, to Boston. It's because there's a hub there. It's much easier to transport a bunch of people to their destinations from a central hub. We call this neuronal convergence. The signals converge in one place and then diverge from that to multiple places. So the autonomic nervous system, this is what we're gonna focus on today. There's the parasympathetic division and the sympathetic division. And I talked a little bit about this in the chapter 16 lecture when we were talking about reflexes. But now we're going to go into a little more detail. The parasympathetic division is your rest and digest response. It brings the body back into homeostasis when homeostasis is lost. And it includes some of the cranial nerves, the oculomotor, the facial, the glossopharyngeal, but the most important is the vagus nerve here. And that vagus nerve is going to make all of this tons and tons of branches. And it's called vagus because vagus means wandering. So it's this wandering nerve that wanders through your body, sending signals to your internal organs. The sympathetic division, on the other hand, relies on this set of ganglia along the spinal cord called the sympathetic trunk ganglia. And so we have axons that come out of the anterior rami and synapse in this sympathetic trunk in the ganglia, and then send the signals to individual organs. And this is going to be your fight or flight response. These are also going to be involved in homeostasis. So the two divisions, parasympathetic and sympathetic, are going to work together to keep the body in homeostasis. So for the parasympathetic division, we have a really long preganglionic neuron. And then the ganglion is going to be really close to the effector organ, or sometimes even actually within the effector organ, within the wall of that organ. The sympathetic division has a really short ganglionic axon, and it's going to branch a bunch, so that one preganglionic neuron can actually go to several ganglions, and then the postganglionic axon is really long, goes from that sympathetic trunk ganglion to the target organ. The parasympathetic pathways, you can see they're really, really wide ranging. The first few nerves, you remember, go to the lacrimal gland, the oculomotor, the muscles around the eyes. The submandibular gland the salivary glands around the mouth. Those are going to salivate when your digestive system is working, and your digestive system, of course, is part of the rest and digest or parasympathetic response. The parasympathetic is also going to innervate the heart, the lungs, the muscles inside the trachea that are your vocal cords, the stomach, the liver, the pancreas, the spleen, the kidneys, the intestines, testes, ovaries, bladder, all of this stuff. All of these are going to be part of the parasympathetic pathways. So when the parasympathetic pathways are in control, heart rate is going to slow, breathing slows, digestion speeds up, sex happens. The sympathetic pathway, on the other hand, is going to innervate the eye to narrow the pupil, to dilate the pupils. It's going to cause blood vessels to dilate, sweat to occur, speed up heart rate, speed up breathing rate, decrease blood flow to the digestive organs, decrease blood flow to the reproductive organs, tell the bladder to shut up, which is why when you're super, super nervous, you usually don't have to be until the immediate crisis ends. Although, you know, sometimes signal to the bladder to say, empty out, please. So the products of the innervation are pretty much the opposite of the innervation from the parasympathetic pathway. So sympathetic pathway speeds the heart, parasympathetic pathway slows the heart. And all of the sympathetic pathways are controlled through these ganglia. And that is all you need to know about the autonomic nervous system.